Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Bulletproof for BJJ podcast. I'm JT and I'm here with Joey.
What's up, guys? I didn't get a cool intro today.
No, I thought we'd just get into it. You know?
Right on, bro. We've got lots to talk about.
Can't mess around.
Yeah.
Well, actually, let's do some shout outs because we've got some people to acknowledge.
Bro, I was going through the airport the other day.
Okay.
I was flying domestic to, where the fuck are we going? Sunshine Coast.
North.
And just for a few days, little trip, very nice. And I'm coming into the airport and there's a guy there. It wasn't like the pickup area of the arrivals.
Did he
area.
have a sign with your name on it?
He had a sign and it said, it's like someone else's name.
Yep.
So-and-so. And it was just one guy standing there. So I like took notice. So I'm like, oh, it's one guy waiting for some other person.
Sure.
And it said, so-and-so, the name. And then it said, President of the Micro Penis Association. And I walked past it. I like looked at the thing and then I like took it down and I was like, that's fucking epic. He was like, thanks, man. And he's like, hey, you're Joey, right? I'm like, yeah. He goes, I listened to your podcast, bro. Bulletproof.
President?
Fuck, awesome. Yeah. I was like, oh, my guy. Like it was such a cool, I totally forgot his name, but thanks, bro. Thanks for the laugh and good to connect.
That's awesome. That's so funny that the funny sign you see happens to be a jiu-jitsu dude.
Yeah. Taking the piss.
A cool guy. That's so good. Speaking of traveling, I'll give a shout out to my man, Adam Rice, who he's always traveling and he's about to head off on epic adventures. He's a chef. So he's going to be doing some personal chefing on private yachts. For big cats out in France or wherever.
He does a lot of the clean stuff, low FODMAP, gluten-free.
He does.
Doesn't he? Yeah.
He's got some awesome recipes and stuff. And I worked with him in Melbourne. Anyway, he's a hardcore Bulletproof supporter.
He is.
Did a quick call with him the other day. He's just talking how much Bulletproof has kind of kept him on the jiu-jitsu journey. Because the way he's flipped it in his mind was he used to just do jiu-jitsu and sometimes do Bulletproof. But he was like, my body can't handle that. So now Bulletproof is the main thing, which means when he does do jiu-jitsu and he's able to do that, he actually pulls up way better.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was so good to hear. So shout out to my boy, Adam.
What's up, Adam?
Guys, get your kids started in BJJ. Now, this is a big thing. We got a lot of jiu-jitsu dads out there and mums.
Or future ones.
Future ones, that's coming. I might be one eventually. What are we going to do? Because what's the right age to start? I've had this a bunch. People are like, what's the right age to start your kid? What should they do? And, what age should kids start training with weights? And, there's all this concern because, I don't, full disclosure, I do not have a child, but have had many discussions with dads about getting their kids into sport and, all the different things. At what age do you get them on the steroids?
Of course.
Requisite stuff.
I mean, you want to start doping really well before they're conceived.
Yeah.
Because that way you know that, like, once the fertilization happens, they're already experiencing the benefits of the trend.
It's a great...
Yeah. You put a little Mike O'Hearn pops out. Baby Don't Hurt Me starts playing in the hospital.
Dude, when you see photos of Mike O'Hearn in 1992, you're like, he looks the same.
Oh,
that was 30 years ago. He's the human Barbie
his
doll.
face doesn't move anymore, but yeah, he still looks really incredible. What is he? Late 50s?
I can't even tell.
Yeah.
He looks immaculate.
He's ageless.
So anyway, you want to get your kids started in BJJ. How do we approach that? Because
Do you?
What?
Do you want to get your kids started in BJJ? Is that are you making that as a statement? Or are you
No. Say you're a dad, you're a mom, and you do jiu-jitsu or you're thinking about it, and you're like, I want to get my kid into this because it seems like a cool thing.
Yeah.
What's the right way to start? And I'm going to say that you can start your kid too early. As someone who briefly took some kids' classes and then quickly went, no, I will not do that. Because
it's not trying to coach myself.
It was just, they just run around, like you just corralling cats.
Yeah.
You're just actually teaching kids to just sit still and listen. And actually, I don't think, as much as that can be the role of a martial arts instructor, there's so much for kids to learn physically.
Yeah.
I personally feel that, this is accumulated knowledge from other coaches, from other disciplines like basketball and taekwondo, that the best place to start a kid young is kindy gym. Like some kind of fun play gymnastics type orientation where they can do forward rolls, you know, get some awareness, balance beam. Stuff like this is the best place to start any kid's athletic development, whether you want them to do jiu-jitsu or not.
Yeah.
What do you think about this, Joe?
Yeah, strongly agree. Odd. The
Imagine.
yeah, I think well, let me start by saying I think that we all have, and this is, you know, my son's 2.5 now, so I'm still pretty early days in terms of that. Like, he's not doing organized sports or anything yet, right?
You just got him out with the Matic. You're like, build me a trench, son.
Yeah.
And he's like, I got you, Dad.
Yeah. But I think that some of that, I was actually having a chat with my sister and my partner the other night at dinner about kids and eating, and my son's a really good eater right now.
Yeah.
Right? And eats everything. Yeah, enjoys flavors and textures and all that. And then you got like my stepdaughter who really is extremely narrow with what she'll eat.
Yeah.
And everything else is yuck, right? And I know that, like, my brother's kids are the same. And his daughters were amazing eaters. And then all of a sudden, they were just like, no more. Like, we're just not now. It's
Nuggets
tomato
and
sauce.
white bread.
Exactly. And the younger one just follows what the other, and you're like, oh, damn, what a fall from grace.
Yeah.
But we're having this chat, and my sister's like, well, you know, if I had kids, I think I would do it like this.
Sure.
And I said to her, I was like, you know what? I think I would have had your opinion. I would have shared that before I had kids.
Sure.
But I've now realized that a lot of it is luck of the draw. And a lot of it is just out of your control to an extent. So say with, you know, like looking at my son, I think I have all these views of how I'd like him to do things. But at the end of the day, if he's like, he'll choose.
Yeah.
Right? I'll be like, hey, man, I think, you know, and he'll be like, nah, I want to fucking do, I don't know. I want to ride a scooter. I'll be like, bro, I really think you should ride a skateboard. He'll be like, no, I want to ride a scooter, raise a scooter. And I'll be like, I can't say no to that. If you really, right?
That's what he wants.
So anyway, you know, so I guess the acknowledgement first is that a lot of it is out of your control. So, but you know, whatever, that being acknowledged, let's talk about maybe what we think is ideal. Yeah, I think one of the issues I see is that one, and I think we can all identify this, is when you see a parent that's trying to live vicariously through their child.
Sure.
And they're trying to make their child the champion that perhaps the parent once was, or wish they were not, or wishes they were. Yeah, and you know, you do what you want, right?
But isn't that how all great champions are born?
In a way, right?
Tiger Woods, you know, like, you know, Andre Agassi.
Yeah, a lot of them.
Obsessive
It's
parents.
kind of through trauma
who
that they become
force
great.
their children to do one great thing.
And not all, but many, right? Like
Yeah.
we know it's so common.
Tynan Dalpra.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, he started when he was 5.
Okay, right.
Like
yeah.
a lot of these great I guess the standard in jiu-jitsu now is if you don't start when you're 6 and train at AOJ, you're not going to be a world champion, like at the highest level.
Yeah.
Like you're not the Rotolos. Do you understand? Like
Yeah,
those guys were world junior champions at 9. People were talking about them when they were 9 years old, being phenoms. 10 years later, we're like, holy shit,
Yeah.
they're the best. So I'm saying, we're not saying, oh, you got to get your kids into jiu-jitsu now because you want them to be world champions. I think the discussion I'm trying to have here is there's parents out there who are thinking, should I start my kids early?
But yeah, let me finish on that point.
Please.
Let me finish on that. So yeah, so I think that kind of like that sort of what you would say is maybe not just to judge any of those champions, amazing athletes.
Sure.
But when you see that parent that's like kind of putting the pressure on their
Pushing.
kid to fight, and you're like, that seems a little bit, at least to me, I'm like, that doesn't seem cool. So jiu-jitsu is not a well-rounded form of athleticism, right? It's not teaching you, like it's not going to make you a great all-round athlete because it's a very specific sport. A lot of it's played off your back. Like look at an amazing guard player and think about what happens in jiu-jitsu. That doesn't give you a base of physicality that's going to serve you through other areas of life.
But if you never teach your son to pull guard.
Well, right?
Right.
Sure. So if you're like wrestling as a flip on that, wrestling is a great base of athleticism.
Sure.
Because it requires athleticism and strength and a lot of picking up and you're never on your back, right?
Yes.
So when I'm like looking at my son, I'm like, what do I want? I want him to have a base of general preparedness that he could apply to whatever he wants.
Anything.
Yeah, and I think about what I had. I played soccer. People would argue it's not the greatest base, but it's pretty good.
It's good.
It's pretty good.
Aerobic base, hand-eye, like foot-eye coordination.
That's right. Direction changing, speed,
agility.
endurance, all that.
Sure. Falling down a lot, faking injuries.
I mean, getting trips, getting taken out. It's fucking hectic out there, bro.
Wet sponge.
People think open mat's tough. Comp spray. Class. Yeah. I think that base is what you want to build. And, I've looked at this a lot and they say that gymnastics is one of the best ways to do that.
Yeah.
Now, I would be sick if he wanted to do gymnastics, but if he's like, I don't want to wear that outfit. I don't want to fucking hang out in that padded room. Then it's like, all right, well, what we're going to do,
Sure.
Yeah.
I get that. I guess I'm looking at it from two perspectives. One is they're a kid, they don't have a fucking choice, do what the fuck I say. And two, yeah, you might give them a choice. So your son might be a really, free-willing, happy kid. My son will be the new Khabib Nurmagomedov. You can do what I say because I feed you and you do it.
That's right. Nice cushy life.
Do you want to live like...
Going to turn him into the hardened mountain warrior of
I
Dagestan.
Yeah, well, who says? I want to ship him off to boarding school.
That's right. Don't come back until you're 20.
Yeah, come back.
Olympic gold medals.
I want Khabib's head. Bring it to me. No. I think it's difficult because when it comes to raising children, everybody's got opinions. People who don't have children have opinions.
Just like assholes.
Everyone's
got one.
Everyone's got them, but not everyone wants to see them, so don't share it. But I think it's more that if you're a parent and you have no idea and you're trying to do the best by your kid, is it a good idea to have your kid in jiu-jitsu class at 5? Me personally, I don't know that it is because I think the hardest thing about jiu-jitsu is you have to be able to learn and grasp a concept. And it's hard enough for adults to sit in a class and, absorb a concept, right? So it's pretty tough ask of a 5-year-old, sit here cross-legged, listen, don't, there's a lot of good things that come out of that in terms of discipline organization. But I would say that, getting your kid exposed to lots of different, because this is the next thing. I can't remember. I think it was a pretty famous football coach was saying that for athletic development, the most athletic kids he has are typically rural kids who do a lot.
Yeah.
Like farming kids, I always talk about farm boy strength.
Yeah.
They've lifted, they've
lifting,
run,
working tools, carrying shit.
They've done a bunch of stuff, breaking horses, whatever they're doing, they're doing.
It was Mark Rippletoe. It was Mark Rippletoe, the strength coach.
I don't know that it was, but sure.
But I've heard Mark Rippletoe from Starting Strength, who said that one of the greatest issues we face now in terms of youth athletic development
inactivity
is that kids aren't growing up on farms.
Yeah, they're not doing
and
stuff.
He's like, if you in the 80s in America, a lot of the kids were rural. And so they had this base, and he's like, now they're more in the cities and they don't have that.
Yeah, they're on
corn fed. Bring back corn fed.
They do say that.
Are you following this corn fed meme?
I've seen it. I've seen it a bunch.
Oh, it's the fucking best. On Because Jitsu on Instagram for anyone. I think it's Because Jitsu, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Memes, boy. But no, it's funny because I did ballet and I did gymnastics, and that actually
what a gay.
Yeah.
I'm only kidding.
That'll get you canceled.
Keep jiu-jitsu gay.
True.
No, I mean ballet, right? Great example.
But yeah.
Not something that most dads be, I want my kid to do ballet, but holy shit, man, you want to build body awareness, coordination, strength, control, flexibility, that's the one.
It served me. Spending time doing a lot of flexibility training is
dancers actually on the whole, I would say, are probably the best movers out there.
Yeah.
They have the greatest, they have the hardware, their body can do everything, but they also have this ability to see and learn and then absorb.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's very much monkey see, monkey do. I do the technique, you do it. No, fix it. And this is a process that actually really helped me for martial arts. I never would have imagined that. So, yeah, dancing is a great thing. I mean, some remarkable boxers have also been great dancers because you need the great footwork, right?
Lomachenko had that thing, didn't he?
Yeah, man. I mean, Sugar Ray Leonard, he was a great dancer. But we're talking about if you are thinking that you want your kid to be a great athlete, whether you want them to do jiu-jitsu or not, allowing them to do many other sports, I think, is one of the best things you can give them, because what we were actually talking about over breakfast is this idea of specialization, that can kind of fuck you.
Yeah.
That if you spend 10 years doing a thing, this, even though you might get good at a skill, it can take away from you physically.
Yeah.
Too much of the same thing.
Yeah, the specialist is generally doomed.
Yeah, because
sorry to cut you off, but in all areas, right? Like the specialist, in order to become extremely good at that one special thing, will sacrifice almost everything else.
yes,
And that's what our society sort of holds up as the pinnacle. And in many ways it is, like in any field, right? Like in medicine or in sports performance, that's like, holy shit, look what this fucking cardiologist has been able to do for, people with heart problems. Or look at this supreme athlete. But the reality is, for most of us, we're not working in a field or performing in an arena where that's actually what's important. Like, our career is not hinging on our ability to run 100 meters. What's more important is that we're well-rounded and we've got general ability, and so, like, perhaps not for your career, right? I think careers are often moved towards specialization, but
specialized knowledge.
Yeah. But if you think about, like, your physicality, you want to have a bit of endurance, you want to have a bit of strength, a bit of flexibility. Like, you need all that shit, whether you want to do jiu-jitsu or you want to go rock climbing on the weekend or you need to move house next week.
Yeah.
That general ability. And that's why I think, like, when we look at our development, that background in martial arts, lifting weights, calisthenics, movement, all that shit actually is what built that base of general ability.
Yeah. And I mean, part of the reason why still now, in middle age, you might say, like, I'm 40. I just had my 40th birthday, dog.
Dog.
Oh my God.
The salty old dog.
Believe it, but strong. I got good athleticism compared to 99% of people. Like, anyone I meet, I'm stronger than. Most people I meet, I'm fitter than. Most people I meet, I'm more flexible than them. And it's not that that's a competition. It's just I have a greater bandwidth for...
Oh, it's a competition.
Believe it.
Come on, JT.
Can destroy you office workers. Yeah. No, I think it's... What was that guy? He's like, oh, you want to remove my appendix? Well, come over here and fucking take it from me, doc.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, what?
Yeah.
You're a doctor. He spent 10 years studying this shit. Relax. No.
Something that strikes me with, like, the jiu-jitsu thing, and parents, like, oh, do I get my kid into it? You meet a lot of, like, people who start jiu-jitsu at a mature age, and they'll always say,
I wish I started it.
And then often that'll extend to, I'm getting my kid into it right away.
Yeah.
And you're like, whoa, hang on. You've just made the connection that because you've started at a later age and kind of wish you had started earlier, that your kid should start it on day one.
Yeah.
You're like, that's discounting everything else you've ever done in your life. Like,
Yes.
all of that, hopefully, all of those other experiences that you had prior to coming to your first jiu-jitsu class will also of benefit.
Very meaningful.
And have made you who you are.
Yeah.
And I think that's a real, like, trap in the thinking, because when you're doing jiu-jitsu, it's natural that it becomes the most important thing in your life in a way.
Yeah.
And you're like, dude, we're just putting on some funny pajamas or some slick lycra.
Yeah.
And we're playing this game. There's a million games out there to play.
Of course.
Yeah. And of course, like, we're huge proponents of jiu-jitsu, as you would expect. But it's like, you gotta remember that, like, there's all that other shit that's of benefit. So, like, yeah, it's like, I never wish I started jiu-jitsu at 5 years old.
Yeah.
I fucking love the fact that I got time to play soccer and do all that shit.
Stuff. Yeah. So I think we can look at this from a few different perspectives, but there's counterpoints to everything. Daniel Ek, who's the CEO of Spotify, he's saying that is he Norwegian, Finnish?
Swedish, I believe.
Swedish
Okay. Company, at least.
Yes, so it's Swedish. And in Sweden...
Are now set up in America because less taxes.
Oh, really? Oh, true.
Sweden pay big tax.
They do pay big tax. And part of that is they have a music fund that any kid can get any kind of music lessons on the government. So there's benefits to that.
Yeah.
And so he, as a kid, they basically put him in a room full of instruments and were like, which one does he touch first? You know, like, and they got him to mess around. And I can't remember, he chose like drums or and his parents were like, oh, you know, like
bang, 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 bang.
Just you know, there's
certain one, dum, 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 dum.
There's certain instruments when a kid is not skilled, like whether it's like a recorder or, you know, like
I saw
violin that just sounds so bad when it's.
I was at the Opera House 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
And there was a
Mr.
child orchestra
Oh.
of 300 recorders.
Was it good?
Primary school kids playing 300. There was 300 recorder players.
Was it good?
It was actually pretty good.
Oh, okay.
And then at the end, this is to watch my stepdaughter play. It was a public school thing. They had 200 kids on the stage in the orchestra, of which like Hattie was part of that.
Yeah.
She was playing cello. 200 and then 300. There was a combined 500 kids performing this piece of music.
Whoa.
It was wild, man.
Amazing.
It was actually pretty good, yeah.
Okay, because I was going to say, you've probably had that experience where you walk past a house and you don't know if it's a kid or not, but you're hearing, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh. You know, being the parent in that house is like a bit of a curse. Why did I bring this up? Part of the reason why Daniel Ek started Spotify, he has this passion for music and always has. And he actually, I think he was friends with Avicii. He knew like, there's a reason why a lot of artists and songwriters come out of Sweden, because they have a culture of empowering kids to do music for free. Usually that's a very privileged thing, you know, like for a kid to play an instrument or have a piano or whatever, right? The thing about it is this informed him culturally about, even though he's not a musician, he has created a platform which has changed music. You know, that's essentially what happened there. And what I wanted to say is putting this to like jiu-jitsu and sporting context, if you enable children to try things and they choose something, go, hey, Dad, I like this. I really like this. You're like, all right, cool. You give them the option. That is, I think...
Once you get your jiu-jitsu black belt, you can come back and do classes in this.
That's allowed. Well, the thing is, like, I really wanted to, you know, like my mum, when I got my black belt in Taekwondo, she's like, okay, you're done. You've achieved the thing. You stop now. And then that's when I started f***ing up. Like I was like 14
like,
and a
Mum,
half.
just hold the board for me one more time. Hold the board, hold that.
She wouldn't let me. So I started to rebel because I didn't have that outlet, you know?
Why did she not want you to do it anymore?
Well, she's like, you focus on school now.
Okay, yeah.
Like you study now.
Yeah.
And so I was like, graffiti.
Right on.
You know, I needed an outlet. Like I was that kid. Not all kids need that. But what I'm saying is, if we're thinking about kids developing, giving them the choice and saying, oh, do you like this? No, you don't like this. Okay, how about this? Try that. And giving them the option, that can be very powerful. So I'm just going to give an example. A kid I used to train with, Chris, he was actually got silver at the World Junior Games for Taekwondo and actually knocked out the Korean kid in the final. It was in Korea.
Whoa.
But they kind of jostled him, woke the kid back up. Like technically that should have been it. But because it was in Korea and the Korean kid was up like 1 or 2 points, they kind of rocked him back to consciousness and let the fight continue. So Chris got silver. He would have been a world junior champion.
Oh, wow.
This is at like...
You can do knockouts at junior there?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, well, not technically, you probably shouldn't, but like Chris had such a big kick.
Yeah.
Like he's shorter than me and he had size like 14 feet. He had paddle feet.
Right on.
So when he would hit you in the head or the body, it was like power. So anyway, at 16 or 17 years old, he was ranked as one of the best in Australia. And at Olympic trials, almost beat my coach, Carlo, who was the then like lightweight champion of Australia, one of the best in the world. So Chris was considered to be the golden boy. Like this guy is going to be the future world champion. Almost a junior world champion. Just lost to Carlo by like a point in the Olympic selection. Turns 18, finds alcohol, finds ladies, gets a job.
My God.
See you later, Taekwondo. No more Taekwondo. this guy was easily the best guy of our generation. He was my training partner, or I was his kicking bag with legs,
Right.
for 3 or 4 years. And I knew how good Chris was. And this guy was just out of control. And he never realized his potential in terms of, he just got over it. It's like, this. I want to go drinking. I want to play snooker on a Friday night. I want to eat just donuts and not train my life away.
Have a good time.
Yeah. And I think
Get some other life experiences.
Yeah, this is the difficulty that you might, if you're a parent and you're really invested in your kid doing jiu-jitsu, you might spoil it for them. I think this is the flip side, that when we go past even like the youth phase and you're in the teenage phase, if you kind of don't let kids have a certain amount of fun or f up in certain ways, that can create like a bit of a backlash.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think, I guess it's a pretty privileged position, isn't it? To be able to, like, at least for me to be able to look back and go, oh, like I did all these things and my parents never really put the pressure. It's like, oh, you want to play soccer? Cool. Oh, you want to do the rep team? Okay, yeah, we'll do that. And they're like, hey, I'm over that. I don't want to play soccer now. They're like, cool. They probably said like, are you sure? Like, I think it's good for you. And I'm like, no, I just want to smoke ciggies and chase broads. They're like, whatever, you're 17, do your thing.
Do your thing.
You look at some of, Khabib, right? Talking about
Sure.
Dagestan. You look at some of the great athletes that come out of these parts of the world that are just
Hardest
harder.
parts of the world.
And it's like, you can see where a parent's like, no, motherfucker, you are doing this thing
all
because
you will
this
do.
is your ticket. Like, this is kind of your only ticket
Out of
here. So, can't speak to that, of course. But, like, if you get your kid into jiu-jitsu at 5 years old, like, chances are they're probably not going to want to still be doing it when they're 20. Maybe they do. Maybe they don't. But it's not, I think whatever you choose to do, it's not forever.
Yeah, sure.
And I think that's where the diversity thing is important, because it's like 6 or 12 months of that thing, and then 6 or 12 months of that thing, and then a couple of years of that. And then I think that's really great.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. I think the other thing is too, there's a challenge in all of this, right? Like swimming lessons. I didn't want to go to swimming lessons. Swimming. I'm still to this day a terrible swimmer. And for me, all my memories of swimming lessons are just me drinking copious amounts of chlorinated water. It was fucking terrible. And the system for teaching me to swim was not great. So
Bad worker always blames his tools.
there's that. But also a drowned child, that can be the liability of the swimming coach. Oh, the kid didn't swim. He sank. Oh, yeah, my bad. Poor genetics, something. No, I think it's one of those things that maybe another kid going through a different swim instructor or swim program could love it and then pursue swimming. But here's the other thing. You want to have a look at the enjoyment you derive as an adult isn't the enjoyment a kid would derive. It's a very different experience. Even if I think about school, like, man, was I in school? I didn't want to fucking sit and learn mathematics. Whereas now I'm like doing brain training of like,
You're like, man, I should have taken notice back then.
I want to be good at math now.
Yeah.
It counts. But because I choose it, that idea of it's under my volition, my autonomy, I will stick at it.
Yeah.
If you make me do something, okay, I'll do it. But man, you know what I mean? Like just the idea. And even at a young age, we know what that's like. I mean, maybe some parents are trickier than me where they'd be like, have you seen that meme where it's like the dad got his kids to like draw pictures of him sleeping? Like, like a still life.
Yeah.
And he's just catching
I think
nap.
that's bullshit. Yeah.
Kids are like, oh, God, that's just fast out. Yeah. But I that's probably just me as a personality, but even from a young age is the idea that there's a choice. And as an adult, you get to choose it. So would jiu-jitsu be as fun if it wasn't your choice?
That's right. And surely for most it wouldn't.
Yeah.
My parents, dad said I got to come here. One thing I was going to say was two things actually. The first is I think if a jiu-jitsu academy has a good kids program,
Huge
like
difference.
you ask any kids coach and they'll tell you it's basically for the youngest group, it's just babysitting.
Yeah.
You're basically just babysitting for an hour or 40 minutes or whatever. And then as as they get older and the classes advance, it moves more towards a point where you're teaching techniques. But I think like a good kids program would or should have some really solid like body weight strength and like coordination principles in there, right?
Yeah.
Basic gymnastic shit, the forward rolls, cartwheels, squats, lunges, push-ups, just build that kind of thing for a couple of years, as well as, hey, let's look at some, jiu-jitsu technique.
And plenty of games too, like
you can
wrestling games and
that's right. Like you can wrap that stuff up in games, can't you?
yeah, definitely.
But something I want to mention, this I heard from Ido Portal when I was at the movement camp once, which has always stuck with me, and it was find a good teacher and learn from them.
Right.
And what that's pointing to is it doesn't matter what they're teaching. It's just if you find a good teacher, learn whatever it is that they're slanging.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a really good point because the teacher it teaches everything in a way, right? It's not necessarily the martial art because you might go to a jiu-jitsu gym and the coach sucks and it's an awful place to be in and that's not going to be a good experience for anyone.
Of course.
But maybe there's a taekwondo gym down the road that's really cool. The coach loves it.
Coach, yeah.
Yeah, and you're like, well, that's obviously a more enriching place to be.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think like it's important to remember that like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, jits is the style that we all agree is the best.
Sure.
But like maybe it is just about finding that place that's awesome and whatever. Try a new place next year or whatever kind of thing.
I think it's that thing that you want to share what you enjoy with people. Like whether it's your mates, you try and get your mates in on jiu-jitsu or your partner but you're like, how cool would it be if like I could bring my kids, they do kids class, I do the, we can all be
that's a lovely little
the big happy jiu-jitsu family.
Yeah.
And, it's kind of, it was cool. Like shout out our boy Samoan Strongman. He got his son in and he had done jiu-jitsu like way back, but not full time. And he hadn't touched a gi or anything for I don't know, years. But because his son was training, he's like, man, I got to get back to this.
Yeah.
And it's what got him back on the mats.
Yeah.
And that's what got him into Bulletproof and whatever else. So I think that there can be a great value in that, they've just had, we got Father's Day coming up here in Australia, but it was just Father's Day recently in the States. That idea of being able to share something that you love with your kids, that can be a bonding thing. And I think if we circle back around, if we leave the world championships out of it, if we leave the abuse, the parental abuse of children out of it and just come back to what gives you connections. My dad is a brown belt in judo. It's actually his birthday today. So happy birthday, Dad.
Birthday, old timer.
Yeah, mate.
Did I know that?
Maybe not.
I knew he was a martial artist, but I didn't think it was judo. Wow.
And he supported me the whole time I did taekwondo, but inside he was probably cringing.
Yeah.
But then when I got into
motherfucker, I will slam you into the earth.
He always tries to reach him out of me, but every time we get a hug, he's like pummeling for a hook.
Yeah.
I'm like, mate, don't do it. Like, yeah, one time he got real boozed at Christmas and I agreed to have a guitar lesson with him. And like he tried to no-gi, like Tominagi me, like I got underhooks, so he went double overhooks.
Oh.
And this is on tiles in the kitchen, like hot. He like put his leg up, put his foot on my hip and tried to like pull me over.
That's where you roll onto your back
and you kick him over. But he just lost his grips and just fucking fell on the fucking tile.
Oh.
And then Mum's like, you two, no wrestling in the house. I'm like, where are we going to wrestle? On the fucking grass? Like, what do you mean no wrestling in the house? It's the safest place we can do it. Anyway, so what was cool was like, because I started doing judo, I could see, he was like, yeah, because it enabled him to say to me, oh, I remember like we used to do this and like judo in the 70s was real popular. They used to have it on TV. They used to have huge trophies. It was just a way for he and I to relate.
Yeah.
And I think
how cool is that?
Yeah, it's so nice.
Yeah.
So I think when we talk about this idea of sharing jiu-jitsu with your kids, it's just another way to connect over something good,
Yeah. Sort of closing point for me on that is what happens every night now after, or usually in the middle of dinner, my son comes around, gets out the dinner table, comes around, he says, Wessel.
Oh, yeah?
And he wants to go wrestle on the bed.
Oh, nice.
And, sometimes it just means build a castle out of pillows.
Okay.
But, he wants to wrestle and it's become this thing. And I wrestle with my stepdaughter too. We all go in and then, whatever. Yeah. I just up with my brutal guard play. Yeah, so that's called a toe hold right there. But it is, you know, I think it's really important to share. And I find that right now at his age and also her level of interest, because she doesn't like organized sports,
right?
But she loves doing shit,
cool,
in a chaotic way. So having that evening wrestle is my way of sprinkling it in as an influence,
connecting, yeah.
And then at a point, I'll probably say to him, "Hey man, you want to come to a class, or you want to come and watch me train?" He's not old enough to get that yet.
Yep.
But yeah, so I'm all about like passively trying to like integrate it into their you know their sphere.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I think there's a lot of positives to take from it. Just got to be able to let them come to it through their own, you know.
Yeah, hopefully. Yes.
Facilitate and see where it goes.
Solid.
Nice.
Cheers, fam.
Peace.